First of all, I want to thank you for all the fantastic work you did during the last 45 years.
Yeah,
And two,
it's
someone asked me lately,
145 years, 145 years.
and the second reason is that someone asked again, can you please explain why you work together and how you work together? So it was time to make a chit chat with the two of us. I will do a very brief introduction, if you don't mind, and then I have a number of questions. How did it start? Well, you wrote this one 135 years ago.
135 years ago, that's
It's
right.
written in 2010. I read it in 2019, and after reading the book in one day, I only thought, why don't we all know this? And a couple of months later, you gave a lecture in the Netherlands, and you and Margaret visited the Netherlands, and I invited you, Margaret, after that for 2 days with a huge number of specialists in a greenhouse and on various places, and I made something after that which was called the RIG, what is called the RIG device. And we were able to make various water versions of your work. And after that, we found out that we can copy information of more than only your work in water, amino acids, enzymes, and other substances.
Essentially, what I was trying to do is the first question in healing research: is it real? Is it real, and is it an illusion? Is it a placebo effect? Is it, and try to explain it away. I'm a skeptic by nature. And so I took the stuff that I saw in humans and brought it into the lab and did it on animals and plants and cells, and did that for decades. I mean, multiple decades, because if you're going to make an outlandish claim that you can have healing stuff go on, and you can do it from a distance, or you can do it nearby, you better have, at least I think, you better have some good evidence going on. After the first 150 years of doing this stuff and establishing that, the second line, I mean, there's like a progression of research. Is the phenomena real? And I can tell you without question, I can back it up with all sorts of studies in medical schools and biology labs and on and on and on. Many, many, many studies and many publications. The stuff is real. Now the question is, what can we do with it? How can we apply it? And so I have a three-phase agenda for doing research. So for the first 75 years, just firmly establish the phenomenon and all its correlates. So does distance matter? Does it degrade, et cetera, et cetera? Second part is, can we take whatever it is that we're watching, instigated by humans, and can we store it? Can we turn this into something that's not just dependent on Ted, or it's not just dependent on Bill? If we want to make something conventional, we have to be able to store it, and we have to be able to scale it. So part one is the stuff real? Part two is, can we store it? Part three is, can we scale it? And so I've done a bunch of work before meeting Ted on the storage of healing. And for example, healing intention can be stored in cotton. It can be stored in lab serum. It can be stored in animals themselves. It can be stored a lot of different ways.
In sound waves as well?
And sound waves as well. And it turns out that, I have a research agenda to sound waves, I have a research agenda to water, I have a research agenda on a variety of areas. And I coincidentally, or not coincidentally, ran into Ted just as I was starting to open up and start thinking about part three. So is the phenomena real? Yes. And I'm a skeptic, but is the phenomena real? Yes. Doesn't mean all claims are real, doesn't mean we know everything, but something weird goes on that's reliable. And if it's reliable, the question is, can it be stored, and can it then be made available to a lot of people? And you can't, if you're studying healing, you can't go one-on-one. I mean, you can go one-on-one, but there's a zillion people. Zillion is an English term. A
Thank you.
zillion people who need help.
Hmm.
We can't get to a zillion people, but can we make something that can be stored and scaled? And it turns out probably the easiest combination of storage and scaling is water. What else can be stored and scaled? I'm still working on that. So I'm still in the lab. I'm still doing studies. I have various labs going on in various parts of the world, and it's all interesting data. But I ran into Ted just at the moment where I needed to store and to look into water and look into how to scale it. And we had some really, really interesting discussions and meetings and groups getting together to look at different ways to scale. And we came up with certain modifications and certain ways and certain principles of how water might be able to actually empower other water. And this is where our story comes in as a collective. And so I've been working with Ted in trying to figure out best ways. Ted's doing the business angle of it for sure. I can barely spell business, and I'm still in the lab. So I'm going to do it in the lab. I promised Ted I would do it for 80, 85 years, but I'm not going past 85 years more in the lab. I'm going to take a break after that. And so the Rick box that Ted is talking about came out of a collaborative discussion with a bunch of people, and Ted took it the last step and had the thing built. And that's what we call the Rick box.
Bill, it's so great that you say it like this. Thank you, by the way. I found this last week,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
and this was the moment that something happened. I think with the both of us,
Yeah.
because this is of a friend of mine, Bet. He does 150 million tulips a year in his greenhouse, and after we started the rig device, uh, we started with it. Well, we couldn't believe what we saw in the beginning because it was difficult for us. Bet asked me, Ted, can you also make a cytokine version of with the rig device? And cytokine he uses as a growth hormone in his tulip production. And I said, well, probably not, but let's give it a try. So we made a cytokine version so a water version of the cytokine, and we did 6 drops in 7 liters, which is I have to talk in gallons, I believe. Yeah, 2 gallons, 6 drops of the cytokine water. So we did water in water,
Yeah.
and after 3 weeks, we didn't do the test ourselves, but the control group was there, and the cytokine tulips were 3.5 centimeters longer and 10% heavier than the control group, which for us, well, there is not a placebo effect with tulips and animals. And you mentioned animals yourself already. So this was the moment that we knew there was something
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
special.
we get crazy results. I mean, we get crazy results. It drives my skeptical brain crazy. And
Yeah,
so I'm never going to stop being a skeptic to some extent. And I keep testing, testing, testing. And at the end, I go, holy smokes.
yeah,
And I say it a little more colorfully in English, but holy smokes, uh, this is amazing. And,
yeah.
and I mean, I think there's 3 words that encapsulate where we've been so far. It's crazy, but it won't stop. It won't stop.
No.
We keep getting the effects, and it doesn't make any difference. I just got off the phone with a lab in Providence, Rhode Island, where we're doing longevity studies on the water that comes out, and it's startling.
Let's go to the from the past to the present, Bill.
Yeah,
We made 4 Bengs products so far. These
yeah.
were the first 2. Can you tell a bit about it?
Yeah, restore and perform came out of a kind of an early version, which is still in the Rick box and still being used, of water, healing intention in water, that water then being prepared once it's been made and it's made through a bunch of different processes that we go through, and then stuck into the Rick box. No human has touched what Ted is holding, at least not in the bottles that I've seen. So we
Mm.
have Restore Water, which is healing intention, captured in a slightly unorthodox way, including putting it through this Rick box. But it's not, the thing that I'm trying to get across is that it's not human based. It's not mechanical, but it's an automatic process. We could make, given sufficient Rick boxes, millions of doses of this stuff.
Mm.
And so this goes back to the idea, sure, identify the phenomenon, but then can you store it and scale it? Well, with this stuff, apparently we can scale it. And so we've made a bunch of products. We're only beginning to scratch the surface on what we're able to affect with it and how we're able to scale what with it. And so Ted talks about certain kinds of stuff that we've tried in the greenhouse. We've tried stuff on people. We've tried stuff on animals. We've tried stuff. We're doing stuff now on, there's a couple of drops of Restore in the food supply of worms, change or influence their longevity. Still too early to be finished because it's such an outlandish claim, but we've got at least 7 or 8 replications now, and I have to tell you, the stuff works, and it works significantly, but I can't give you detailed quantitative measures yet. Need a little more time. That I keep needing a little more time
Yeah.
drives Ted crazy, but I'm very careful and I'm very conservative. And if I make a claim, I really can back it up.
So, to add to this, did we did we make healing storable and scalable? And you
Yes,
say, yeah, okay. Well, that's
yes.
something we didn't say or confirmed half a
Yes.
year ago.
I can
That's
sit
funny.
here as a card carrying skeptic and just say, damn, it really works. Now,
And
that
Bill,
doesn't mean it'll do everything anytime for any condition. And we can need to play around with dose and we need to play around with this and play around with that. And so I never will consider any of the stuff we have finished. I would say it's available and it'll do apparently some good stuff because we've done also some good clinical studies. We've done 3 clinical studies, 2 in the States and 1 in Europe, to see what happens if people put Restore under their tongues at a certain frequency. And I mean, the data are unbelievable. I just the short version: 98% of the people who take Restore in our clinical studies report improvement of some sort.
mm,
And it goes across conditions. You know, there can be psychological conditions, emotional conditions, physical conditions. I've done some studies on some serious diseases, and anyway, it's too crazy.
uh,
It's crazy.
the fun and the strange part to this is that as every body is different, and we are a bag full of water with lots of bacteria in it, but everybody's different. So Restore does something else to almost all the users. So we get so many various reviews back, and you cannot compare with the situation that what happened if you wouldn't have taken the Restore. So that makes it uh,
Yeah, I mean, I can compare. I've got clinical studies that are placebo controlled, double blinded, and randomized. You know, the whole 9 yards. Again,
mhm.
I'm fairly conservative, and I'm going to push it to the wall. Our results are astounding.
That's wonderful to hear for people who use it because they cannot compare themselves with
Yeah,
the situation.
yeah.
Super.
And but
Um,
we don't know enough to I mean, we can't make a blanket claim it'll do anything to anybody, but it does things that continue to surprise and amaze me. It's
mhm.
worth. I mean, I have no hesitation in saying, try it. You know, does it work for you?
Yeah. So that's also the reason that we give. We know it's so special that we decided to tell people, well, if it doesn't work, ask your money back,
And get your money back and
which
write
happened
me hate mail, right? Right, you know.
4 times so far.
I'm fine with hate mail, you know, saying you big dope, you know,
A nice bridge again about hate mail.
Yeah.
Most people don't believe this one. Neither did
Yeah.
we in the beginning.
Yeah. Recover is taking an antibiotic or I'm sorry, an antiviral, doing our hocus pocus on it, sticking it in the Rick box, mass producing it, and it produces antiviral consequences. That doesn't make any sense at all. It just works. I've done this on a variety of conditions. Something serious goes on with the antiviral. Now, we report antiviral activity too on the part of Restore. So there are places where Restore works in a kind of I'm starting to think of Restore as kind of like a broad spectrum
Yeah.
and the antiviral to be more targeted specifically. I'm sure something is happening, but how many different variants of viruses? There's a zillion of them. And does it work on this, that, the other thing? Uh, I mean, we have reports on its strong effects on COVID. We've done tests with it on COVID. We've done tests with Restore on COVID, and Restore will work as an antiviral on COVID.
Yeah.
So it's confusing out there, but it's very effective.
Yeah. It's confusing for even
It's
for us.
confusing, but effective.
And
I mean, a
every test
zillion
and every,
people I know have a boatload of these bottles in their. They put in the medicine cabinet. Say if I want it as insurance, it's already made me better. Do you have more, and can I get more, and can I store it?
last point. What's your dream and how do you see the future of this besides making healing storable and scalable?
I think if I can make it storable and scalable, it's looking at the subset of what it stores and scales. The storage question is interesting as an ongoing research project, and scalability, which is really the clinical motherlode. Um, if we can demonstrate that across a variety of conditions, let's make it worldwide distribution. I mean, why not? We can do stuff that nobody else can do.
Uh-huh. Why not?
Why not? There's a lot of people, there's an inexhaustible supply of people in pain.
And I want to
Let's give them hope.
hope and fun because we have a lot of fun as well
Hope
working
and fun is good.
together. Thank you, Will.
Thank you. Do we turn this off? Do I do it?